Imagine relocating your family to what you believed was your ideal home, only to face harassment, assault, and false accusations from corrupt police until your Navy SEAL comrades arrive to shift the tide. "You don't fit here," were the first words Derek Cole heard from his new neighbor as he unloaded the final box from the moving truck. The words weren't yelled or laced with fury, they were murmured, almost like a caution. Though Derek tried to dismiss them, they lingered in his mind as he stood in the driveway of his new suburban Texas home, sweat rolling down his brow, his children chasing each other across the front yard, and his wife calling for help with the unpacking. Derek, 37, a Navy veteran with nearly 2 decades of service abroad, had endured tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. He'd witnessed combat, seen men crumble under stress, but now he craved simplicity, a safe street for his kids' bikes, a backyard for Sunday barbecues, a place to call his own. The house was modest yet sturdy, a 2-story brick home with a spacious garage and a lawn he eagerly planned to tend. For him, this was triumph after years of deployments and family separations. He'd earned stability. His wife, Simone, was radiant, already planning the garden. His son Caleb raced his little sister Mia along the sidewalk, their laughter echoing. But the neighborhood wasn't as warm as they'd hoped. Some neighbors offered polite waves, but others stared too long, watching in silence. Derek noticed curtains twitching as he passed, and hushed conversations halted when his family approached. That evening, as Derek sipped a cold beer on the porch, a slim man in his late 50s approached, wearing a crisp polo tucked into khakis, holding a clipboard. He introduced himself as Mark Ridley, head of the Homeowners Association. "Mr. Cole," Ridley said sharply, "welcome to the neighborhood. We have strict standards here. I'll send you our rules." Derek smiled, aiming for friendliness. "I keep my place in order. No issues here." Ridley's gaze flicked to Derek's flagpole, where an American flag waved gently. "That flagpole's about 2 feet too tall. We'll need to fix that." Derek blinked, caught off guard. "I served under that flag for nearly 20 years. It's staying." Ridley offered a thin, unfriendly smile. "We'll see." That was the first hint that the idyllic neighborhood Derek thought he'd joined was flawed. Days later, Ridley returned, nitpicking about visible trash cans, the basketball hoop in the driveway, even the kids' laughter being too loud at night. It was relentless. Simone tried to calm Derek. "He's just a control freak. Ignore him, and he'll stop." But Derek, seasoned by years in the military, knew better. He'd met men like Ridley, those who prod and provoke until you snap. One afternoon, while washing his car, Derek saw Ridley approach again. "You should watch how many guests you have," Ridley said, eyeing Derek's cousin who dropped by. "This isn't that kind of place." Derek set down his sponge, jaw tight. "What kind of place is that, Mark?" Ridley held his stare briefly before saying, "One with standards," and walked off. The words stung. Derek had fought too hard to feel like an outsider in his own home. He vowed not to let Ridley pull him into a fight, but something told him this was just the start. That night, as Derek tucked his kids into bed, he found himself peering out the window, scanning the street. Ridley's car lingered near the corner longer than usual. His military instincts screamed that something was off. Ridley wasn't just a pest, he was a growing threat. But the real danger wasn't Ridley alone, it was who he called when he wanted to wield his grudges as power. The next morning, Derek found a bright yellow notice taped to his door, official-looking with bold text, "Violation, improper trash can placement." He chuckled bitterly, the cans were exactly where city rules required. This wasn't about regulations, it was Ridley's game. Simone saw him holding the crumpled notice. "Another one?" she asked. "Yeah," Derek muttered, "he won't quit." It became a pattern. Every few days, a new violation: grass too tall, cars parked too close, decorative lights too bright. Derek documented everything, taking photos to prove the complaints were nonsense, but the constant scrutiny wore him down. Worse, it began to affect his family. One evening, while grilling, his kids asked if they could have friends over. Before Derek could reply, Simone hesitated, wary of giving Ridley more fuel. "Not now," she said softly. Caleb frowned. "Why?" "It's just a sleepover." Derek forced a smile. "Soon, buddy, I promise." But inside, anger simmered. his kids were being made to feel unwelcome because one man had decided they didn't belong. Ridley's disdain was blatant. He'd pause on the sidewalk to inspect Derek's property, scribbling on his clipboard while feigning courtesy. Once, Derek overheard him tell a neighbor, a middle-aged woman with a small dog, "We'll handle this, don't worry," as if the Coles were a blight. Finally, Derek confronted him. It was a warm Saturday, and Derek was mowing the lawn when Ridley approached with papers in hand. "Mr. Cole, your fence needs repainting. HOA rules are clear." Derek stopped the mower, wiping sweat from his face. "Mark, that fence was painted 6 months ago. It's fine." Ridley smirked. "Our standards are higher." Derek stepped closer, voice low. "I don't know what your issue is, but stop targeting my family. My kids deserve better." Ridley's smile widened. "Problem? There's no problem unless you make one." Then, casually, he added, "A friend of mine on the police force lives nearby. He doesn't like rule breakers." That was the first time Ridley mentioned cops, and the way he said it wasn't casual, it was a warning. Later, Simone tried to ease Derek's mind. "He's bluffing. He can't just send police after us." But Derek wasn't convinced. His gut told him Ridley had more pull than he showed. The next week proved him right. Driving home from work, Derek saw flashing lights in his rearview mirror. He pulled over, confused. He hadn't been speeding. Officer Halverson approached, his tone icy. "License and registration." Derek complied. "What's this about, officer?" "Broken tail light," Halverson said. Derek knew it was a lie. His car was nearly new. He stayed calm, hands visible, every move deliberate. Halverson stared longer than needed before issuing a warning. When Derek reached his driveway, he saw Ridley chatting with another officer, Kyle Mercer, whose sharp eyes matched his reputation. The connection was obvious. These were Ridley's allies. From then on, the harassment intensified. A police cruiser parked near Derek's street at odd hours. Once, Derek was tailed for 15 minutes on his way to work. When Simone went grocery shopping, she returned rattled, saying a patrol car circled the lot twice as she loaded her car. "This is intimidation," Derek said one night, pacing the living room. "He's using his buddies to trap us." Simone's voice shook. "What can we do? We can't move again." Derek took her hand. "I won't let them." It was a Thursday evening when things erupted. The Texas sky glowed orange and pink as Derek helped Caleb with math at the dining table. Simone cooked dinner, and Mia chased their dog, her laughter filling the house, a fleeting moment of normalcy. Then a sharp knock shook the door. Derek opened it to find Ridley, clipboard under his arm, his expression stiff. "Your kids are disturbing the neighborhood again," Ridley said. "This isn't a playground, Mr. Cole." Derek's jaw tightened. "They're playing in their own home." Simone stepped forward. "Is this necessary? They're kids." Ridley's smile was cold. "Rules are rules. If they can't follow them, there'll be consequences." That word, consequences, hung heavy. Derek stepped onto the porch. "You're harassing us. You've been on my property more than my neighbors. Stop now." Ridley didn't budge. "You don't get how this works. The HOA has authority, and I'll enforce it." Leaning closer, he added, "You're not the kind of neighbor people want here. If you won't listen to me, you'll listen to someone else." Simone bristled. "What's that mean?" Ridley's grin widened. "You'll see." He walked off, clipboard tapping his leg. The door closed, and Simone exhaled. "He's threatening us now, Derek. We can't ignore this." "I know," Derek said, rubbing his face. "But if I react, he'll paint me as the aggressor. That's his goal." The house fell silent except for Mia's soft humming. That weekend, Ridley delivered on his threat. As Derek mowed the lawn, officers Halverson and Mercer approached, their posture radiating authority. "Mr. Cole," Halverson said, "we've had reports of aggressive behavior toward a neighbor." Derek stopped the mower, sweat dripping. "Aggressive toward who?" "Mr. Ridley," Mercer replied flatly. Derek laughed bitterly. "He came onto my property and said my Kids couldn't laugh in their own home. That's the truth. Halverson's eyes narrowed. Watch your tone. We're here to keep the peace. Simone stepped onto the porch. My husband hasn't threatened anyone. This is harassment. Question Ridley, not us. Mercer glanced at her, then back at Derek. We'll be watching this house. Don't give us a reason to return. They left, but the message was clear, they were Ridley's enforcers. That night, Derek sat at the table long after the kids slept. His phone buzzed with a text from an old Navy buddy asking about civilian life. Derek started to reply, then stopped. How could he explain that the real fight was here, against men hiding behind badges and clipboards? Simone set a cup of tea before him. We can't live like this, Derek. I know, he said softly, but moving means he wins. I won't let him. Simone took his hand. Then what? Derek stared at the flagpole outside, the stars and stripes glowing faintly. We stand our ground, but smart. He wants me to slip up. I won't. The weeks that followed felt like living under a magnifying glass. Derek couldn't leave without seeing a patrol car creep by, sometimes Halverson, sometimes Mercer, sometimes an unmarked cruiser lingering at the block's end. To outsiders, it looked routine, to the Coles, it was surveillance. One night, Simone whispered, they're trying to scare us into leaving. Derek stared at the ceiling. That's the plan, make us feel trapped until we break. The harassment was deliberate. One morning, Mercer pulled Derek over for allegedly rolling a stop sign. Derek knew he hadn't, but arguing was futile. Mercer lingered, writing the ticket slowly, ensuring neighbors saw Derek like a criminal. When he got home, Simone waited on the porch. Another one, she asked. Stop sign, Derek muttered. It didn't happen. Simone's eyes flashed with frustration. They're building a case, bit by bit, painting you as dangerous. Ridley's feeding them excuses. Inside, the kids grew restless. Caleb asked why police cars always passed their house and no one else's. Mia, only 7, started closing curtains when she saw flashing lights. These weren't the lessons Derek wanted his kids to learn about law enforcement. The breaking point came one humid June evening. Derek was taking out the trash when Ridley appeared, arms folded, Halverson at his side. Your cans are still visible, Ridley said smugly. Derek set the bin down. City rules say they can't block the sidewalk. They don't. You're inventing rules. Ridley smirked, and Halverson stepped forward. We've had complaints. Comply. Derek crossed his arms. Advise me or threaten me. Halverson's hand rested on his belt. Don't make this harder. Simone emerged, voice firm. This is harassment. My husband's done nothing wrong. You're abusing your power. Ridley tilted his head. Careful, Mrs. Cole. Words like that cause trouble. Derek stepped between them. I served this country for years. I know the difference between peace and targeting a family. You crossed that line. Halverson and Derek locked eyes, a stare Derek recognized from combat zones, dominance, not justice. Finally, Halverson muttered, we'll be back, and left with Ridley trailing smugly. That night, Derek replayed the encounter. Simone touched his shoulder. They're setting you up. I know, he said. If I push back wrong, they'll twist it. I have to be smarter. The stress bled into everything. At work, colleagues noticed Derek's silence. Simone skipped neighborhood events, tired of whispers. Even Caleb asked if they'd done something wrong. The worst came late one Friday. Derek returned from a long shift to find Mercer parked across from his house, headlights glaring. Derek approached. Why are you here? Mercer smirked. Keeping the neighborhood safe. From what? Derek pressed. Troublemakers, Mercer replied, rolling up his window and lingering another 20 minutes before leaving. Simone trembled as Derek returned. They're escalating. What happens when they act? Derek's mind raced. Then we're in real danger. The danger arrived sooner than expected. It was a long, tense day, and Derek pulled into his driveway under a black Texas sky, cicadas humming. The living room lights glowed, his kids' shadows dancing across the blinds, his sanctuary. Then a thunderous knock shook the door. Simone froze, Caleb and Mia peeked from behind the couch. Derek's instincts flared. He opened the door to Halverson and Mercer, rigid and wolf-like, with Ridley smirking behind them. "Mr. Cole," Halverson snapped, "reports say you threatened neighbors again. We need to talk." Derek stayed calm. "I haven't threatened anyone. This is harassment." Mercer stepped forward. "Step outside." "Not asking." Simone shouted, "He doesn't have to go anywhere." "Got a warrant." They ignored her. Halverson shoved Derek backward onto the porch. The kids screamed. Derek stumbled but caught himself, hands up. "Don't touch me. I'm not resisting." Mercer twisted Derek's arm, slamming him against the house. The crack of his shoulder hitting the wall echoed. "Daddy!" Caleb sobbed. Simone rushed forward, but Halverson blocked her. "Stay back, or you're arrested too." "This is my husband," she screamed. "Not in front of our kids." Derek gritted his teeth as Mercer forced his arm higher, pain searing. "I served this country," he growled. "This is how you treat me." Ridley's voice cut through. "Should have thought of that before moving here." Halverson knocked Derek's legs out, sending him crashing to the porch, cheeks scraping concrete. Mercer drove a knee into his back. Simone's cries pierced the air. "Stop resisting." Halverson barked, though Derek hadn't fought back. "I'm not resisting." Derek shouted. "You're assaulting me." Neighbors' lights flicked on, but no one intervened. Simone screamed, "Someone call 911. They're beating my husband." Halverson pinned Derek while Mercer cuffed him tightly, cutting his skin. They yanked him up, shirt torn, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. "You're under arrest for disorderly conduct and resisting," Mercer sneered. Derek glared. "You know that's a lie." Halverson shoved him toward the cruiser. "Tell it to the judge." As they dragged him away, Derek locked eyes with Simone, her face tear-streaked, arms around the kids. He tried to reassure them with a look, but their fear cut deeper than any wound. In the cruiser, Derek's mind raced. He'd survived wars, bullets, enemies, nothing compared to this humiliation in front of his family. The ride to the station was silent, save for the radio's crackle. Mercer smirked in the rear view. "Should have kept your head down, hero." Derek clenched his fists, swallowing rage. He wasn't afraid for himself, he'd endured worse, but his family, alone with Ridley circling, gnawed at him. Back home, Simone sat on the floor, kids huddled in her arms, whispering, "We'll get him back. They won't break us." But even she wasn't sure how. Derek's arrest wasn't the end, it was the spark. The next morning, Simone stared at untouched coffee, hands shaking. She hadn't slept, haunted by Derek's face on the concrete, his voice insisting he wasn't resisting. Her phone buzzed with unanswered texts from family, none knowing what to do. At dawn, she drove the kids to the county jail, their eyes wide with fear, clutching backpacks though they weren't going to school. When Derek emerged, bruised, cut, wrists raw, Mia ran to him, sobbing into his stomach. Caleb clung to his leg, whispering, "I thought they'd take you forever." Derek pulled them close despite the pain. "I'm here. Not going anywhere." He kissed Simone's pale cheek. "They didn't break me," he whispered. But the damage ran deeper. At the station, they'd charged him with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. The report claimed he was combative, refused commands, attempted to strike officers, all lies written as fact. Simone read it, outraged. "They're rewriting it. Making you the criminal. That's their game," Derek said bitterly. "Their word against mine without proof." By noon, gossip spread. Neighbors whispered as Derek limped to retrieve his trash cans. One shook his head like Derek was trouble, another hurried their kids inside. Ridley strolled by, feigning concern. "Rough night." Derek ignored him. "You should move," Ridley called. "Easier for everyone." Derek's fists clenched, but he stayed silent. Ridley wanted an outburst to twist. Derek tried filing a complaint with the police, but the sergeant cut him off. "Our officers followed protocol." File through internal review, but these cases rarely go anywhere. Simone held his hand at night as he stared at his bruises. We can't fight this alone. They've decided the truth. Who can help? Derek asked. After a pause, Simone said, your old team. Derek froze. He hadn't thought of them in months. They'd scattered after the Navy, private security, civilian jobs, some vanished. But they were brothers, bound by loyalty. I don't want to drag them in, he said. Simone gripped his hand. They'd want to know. You swore to never leave each other behind. Her words hit hard. Derek remembered Ethan McGraw's voice, we protect our own. His thumb hovered over Ethan's contact. He didn't know how to explain that the enemy was here, hiding behind badges and clipboards. Caleb entered, rubbing tired eyes. Dad, will they come back? Derek pulled him close. Not if I can help it. But he knew Ridley wasn't done. The beating was just the start. Lying awake, Derek thought of his SEAL brothers, men who stood firm against impossible odds. For the first time, he considered calling. Once they knew, this fight would change. The house was silent, but Derek couldn't sleep. Every creak, every car hum felt amplified. His body ached, but the shame of being cuffed before his kids burned worse. He reached for his phone and dialed Ethan McGraw. The line clicked after 2 rings. Cole, Ethan's voice was gruff, alert. Been a while. You okay? Derek swallowed. Not really. I need help. No hesitation. Where are you? Texas, outside San Antonio. It's bad, Ethan. Tell me, Ethan said. Derek poured it out, the HOA harassment, Ridley's threats, the cops' intimidation, the beating. His voice broke describing Simone shielding the kids. Silence followed, then Ethan's steady voice, send the address. I'll be there with some of the boys. You don't have to, we protect our own, Ethan cut in. Always have, always will. Sit tight. When Derek hung up, Simone stirred. Was that Ethan? He's coming, Derek said. They all are. Her eyes held relief and fear. Will this help or make it worse? Derek kissed her forehead. It's our only shot. The next morning, Derek moved with new purpose, even as Ridley strutted by with his smug grin. By evening, a black pickup with out-of-state plates pulled up. Ethan McGraw stepped out, broader than Derek remembered, his calm presence grounding. Cole, he grinned, hugging Derek. Hell of a mess. Good to see you, brother. 2 more vehicles arrived, carrying Ryan Tate, who joked even in firefights, Miguel Alvarez, quiet but fierce, and Sam Patterson, his cheek scar telling its own tale. They weren't in uniform, but their movements screamed discipline. Simone greeted them gratefully, though worried. I don't know your plan, but thank you. Ethan nodded. We're here to keep Derek and the kids safe and get the truth out. That night, over the dining table, the talk wasn't math but survival. Ryan leaned forward. Ridley's a coward hiding behind cops. They're the real threat. Miguel added, they think they can bury this. They're wrong. We'll use media, legal, whatever works. Derek shook his head. They've written their story. No one here will speak up, they're scared. Ethan tapped the table. Then we find people who aren't. Shine a light they can't hide from. For the first time, Derek felt hope stir. By afternoon, word spread, Derek wasn't alone. 4 vehicles lined his driveway, unfamiliar men moving with purpose. Neighbors peeked as Ethan and the others carried bags inside, their discipline unsettling in a way Ridley's clipboard never was. Ridley noticed, pulling up halfway in Derek's driveway, arms crossed. The cavalry, he sneered. Ethan, near the garage, stayed calm. You Ridley. And you are. Friends of the Coles. Here to ensure their rights. Ridley laughed. Their rights? This isn't a battlefield. Ethan stepped closer. Exactly. Stop acting like a dictator. Ridley's smirk faltered, then returned. Careful. I've got influence. He turned to Derek. Your military buddies won't save you. This won't end well. Ryan joined Ethan, voice sharp. We've seen your type, thinking power lets you crush people. You don't scare us. Ridley muttered, gripping his car door tightly, and drove off. It was the first time someone stood up to him. That evening, the SEALs walked with Derek's family down the block, not as guards, but friends. Neighbors who avoided eye contact now faced men whose quiet confidence demanded notice. Nobody spoke, but the silence shouted. Derek wasn't isolated anymore. Later, Simone watched Ethan and Miguel install cameras around the house. We're documenting everything, Miguel said. If cops return, there'll be proof. Simone felt relief, she wasn't alone. But Ridley wasn't idle. A patrol car circled twice, Mercer behind the wheel, eyeing the cameras. He slowed, calling out, "Cameras won't save you." Ethan approached. "They'll save the truth." Mercer's jaw tightened. "Stay out of this. You're not from here." Ethan's voice stayed even. "Wrong is wrong everywhere." Mercer drove off, tires squealing. At the table, Derek said, "They'll get angrier." Ryan grinned. "Good. Anger makes them sloppy." Miguel tapped his laptop. "I sent a packet to a Dallas reporter who covers corruption and a veterans legal group. With evidence, they'll act." Sam added, "Our veteran network's spreading the word. Ridley won't know what hit him." Derek rubbed his face. "I didn't want this to get so big. I just wanted peace." Ethan gripped his shoulder. "Sometimes peace comes from facing conflict head-on. That's why we're here." Ridley struck back, calling an emergency HOA meeting, claiming Derek's property lowered standards. But when Derek entered the community center with Ethan and his team, the room shifted. Neighbors who once whispered now avoided Ridley's gaze. The power was tilting. Ridley and the officers wouldn't back down quietly, though. The stakes were climbing, the tension hung like a storm cloud. Ridley filed more violations, sending letters about certain homeowners, undermining standards, clearly targeting Derek. But Ethan and Miguel had footage, night patrols, confrontations, Ridley's threats. They added Derek's bruise photos and the false police report, building a case. One evening, Miguel said, files went to the Dallas Reporter and a veterans legal group. They'll hit Ridley hard. Ryan smirked. They picked the wrong guy to bully. Derek cautioned, they'll fight dirtier now. He was right. A patrol car returned, Halverson photographing the house like a crime scene. Ethan recorded him. Purpose of your visit? Halverson sneered, routine check. On private property without a warrant. Ethan pressed. Halverson glared at the camera, muttered, and left, tires squealing. At Ridley's HOA meeting, neighbors spoke up. A nervous man said, "Mark, this is too far. Kids shouldn't see their dad beaten." Others nodded. Ridley's face reddened, his clipboard shaking. "He's a danger," he barked, but his words lost weight. That week, the Dallas Reporter called Derek. "Your footage is damning. If you go on record, this runs Monday." Derek hesitated, going public raised risks. Ethan nodded. "It makes burying you harder." Derek agreed. "I'll do it. My family deserves the truth." The story broke online. Texas veteran alleges harassment by HOA and police, caught on camera. Photos of Derek's bruises and Ridley's smirk sparked outrage. Comments flooded in from veterans, parents, and others who saw their own fights in Derek's. That night, Ridley stormed up the driveway, raging. "You'll regret this media stunt." Ethan stepped in. "Back off. This isn't your playground." Ridley jabbed a finger at Derek. "You declared war." Derek's voice was calm. "No, Mark. You did when you brought cops to my door." Ridley left, but the battle lines were set. The article hit hard. News vans lined the street, cameras on Derek's house. Ridley stayed inside, blinds shut, phone glued to his ear. The police issued a statement about protocol, but the videos, Halverson shoving Derek, Mercer twisting his arm, contradicted them. That evening, Derek told a reporter, "I want my kids to feel safe at home. I want abusers of power to know they can't hide. And I want neighbors to see silence helps no one." The clip went national. The Austin Veterans Legal Group filed a civil rights lawsuit. Neighbors admitted Ridley's pressure, though less severe. His power unraveled, the SEALs shifted from defenders to witnesses of change. Miguel worked with lawyers, Ryan handled veteran support, and Sam connected with neighbors, building trust where Ridley sowed fear. One night, Derek admitted to Ethan, "I almost gave up, thought about leaving." Ethan replied, "You didn't need us to fight, Cole. You needed a reminder you're not alone. You've always had the strength." Derek's throat tightened. "I'll never forget what you did." "Don't thank us," Ethan said. "Thank the men who didn't break." Weeks later, Ridley resigned as HOA president. Halverson and Mercer were on leave, under investigation. Small steps, but progress. Derek's story became a symbol. Veterans, families, strangers saw hope in it. The Coles home became a home again. Caleb and Mia played freely, neighbors waved openly, some apologizing. The flag flew high, untouched, a quiet win. One Sunday, Derek grilled with his team, laughter replacing tension. Simone poured tea, kids ran barefoot, and the house felt like home. Derek looked at Ethan and the others, then his family. "This is what we fought for: home, dignity, peace." Ethan raised his glass. To peace, and never letting the wrong people define it. Glasses clinked, their bond unbreakable. As the sun set, Derek knew loyalty and truth outshone fear. The world tried to silence him, but with his brothers and family he stood tall, his story unburied. The lesson was clear: when power is abused, silence fuels it. But stand firm, with others beside you, and you don't just protect yourself, you shift the balance for all who see. If you felt outnumbered or told you don't belong, remember this: one voice, backed by loyalty, can change everything.